All right, in the personal growth world or personal development, often you see the glow up, right? You see the end result and you think, wow, this person did all these things, they're not this new identity. And you don't really see the in-between part of before and after. All you see is before what they were and after. This video is gonna be about the messy middle in between, about how self-growth isn't always pretty and what really no one tells you as you decide to elevate yourself or go to the next level. And the cool thing is you get to do it over and over again. If you're someone that's growing, hit your level and you're kind of coasting and then you decide, I'm gonna grow some more. You're gonna have a lot of middles through life as you're growing and achieving or doing different things in your life, business, personal relationships, etc. So this is the topic that I think is really important because I think a lot of people think that there's an end game without anything having to happen. They think they're gonna check some boxes off, do the things, and not have any difficulty or messy middle. So I think there's a myth that we have to understand that there's no such thing as linear transformation. There's not A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. It's gonna be like going backwards, going forwards. You're gonna take 2 steps back, 2 steps forwards. And I personally have experienced this probably in every single iteration of all the different identities I've had since I was a child, especially now that I'm going into yet another transformation into this new journey that I'm in. And one of the things you should think about is what you can see happening when you know you're starting to elevate or go to another step is if you're outgrowing relationships, meaning outgrowing current circles you're in, friend circles, or if you're wanting more, or you're just sitting there like having out-of-body experiences. I would challenge to think that maybe you're in the middle of some transformation to go to the next level. That's a huge sign. It's not that the relationships you have are bad or that you think you're better than them. I really want to clarify that. It's just that you've outgrown the conversations, outgrown the experiences, and you want more. Or you're wanting to be a small fish in a big pond. Like maybe if you're the big person in your group, if you're the leader, if you're always doing all the things and everyone's looking to you, maybe you need to be put in a circle where you're challenged and you're not just leaning on them leaning on you and you're always being the person for everybody else. Another thing you see is redefining relationships with your spouse. If you're married, if you're dating someone, or you're single, you'll start to see different versions of yourself in relationships when you're trying to grow to the next level. That's a huge thing that happens. And sometimes if you're not growing with that individual, if you have a spouse, a relationship, that tends to be a stressor to the relationship. So that's when you hear those words, you've changed, you're not the same person, you're not the person you were when I met you, etc., etc. And I would hope not. I think anybody that's growing or going through this journey wants to be a better version of themselves year after year after year. I don't think you just stop. And I think if you stop changing and growing and evolving, you kind of slowly die off, kind of get really stagnant. And I've discussed that in other videos, but really important to remember that you have to understand, you have to shed that old version to go to the next. And it is painful sometimes. Sometimes it's not, something that you enjoy the whole path is what I would say. Sometimes you're questioning, why am I doing this? Who thought of this? And why am I changing things? It was fine the way it was. And that's what I mean about relationships. Sometimes if your partner is not changing and growing with you, sometimes you'll outgrow your relationship. And I'm not here to say you need to get a divorce or leave your relationship. I'm here to say to be aware that if you are changing, if you're wanting different things, to have that open conversation with your spouse, with your partner, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, and say, or your really close friends that you're with, if you want them to come with you and grow with you, I would ask them to basically say, come with me. Do you want to grow too? And I want to grow. This is who I am, the next version. It's not that I'm out wanting to get away from you or not be in this relationship. It's just that I see better and bigger things for me. So come on, let's go together. And the relationships that grow together stay together is what we're seeing, right? And I think it's a common theme, and I've been very fortunate. Michael is huge in self-growth. He's never stifled my personal growth. Even there have been many times that I've questioned, is this where I want to be? Is this the relationship I want for myself? And that's being totally vulnerable. We are now getting ready to hit 29 years together, 25 years married at the end of this year, but they haven't been you know, like I said, linear. It hasn't been easy. We've gone through a lot of things, a lot of iterations of ourselves, different versions. We were just laughing the other night at dinner about how different we are today than we were when we first started dating, or even first got married, or before kids, after kid 1, 2, and 3. Every single step of the way, I think we're different people. And the difference is that we can each celebrate the changes within ourselves individually and for our partner as well, and embrace that we're just in a season right now. I think I've talked about seasons in past videos as well. That's another way of saying it. You're in a season. Like if you have really young children, you're probably in a season that an empty nester is not in, right? Or before kids. So those are things to think about. Or relationships that have been long standing. Like someone that's been married 10, 15, 20 years is gonna have a very different conversation than someone that's only been married 2 years, 1 year. It's not that their love is greater or more, it's just that there's more time passed, more experiences, more wisdom that happens. So that's, just keep that in mind. But looking at that, the third topic I would think is, in my journey, is overcoming the reinventing of myself in business. Reinventing myself, not just in business, but in professions and occupations and identities. I've always thought of myself as a creative, but then there was a spurt where I would just thought of myself as not creative at all. And what I realized is that creativity was just stifled, and it's coming out again now. And it's really exciting to see kind of the blossoming. It's another stage in my life. And I think it's important to embrace the yearnings, the little whispers that you have. So if you have a little bubbling of wanting to do different things in your business, wanting to explore different hobbies, trying to think about writing, creating, learning a different skill, getting a certification, going back to school for something that you're interested in, go for it. I think that's a huge step in that in-between place that you're kind of hibernating and going into that hermit mode to kind of work on yourself. And I heard this great quote, is that if you're kind of lost and you don't have clarity about where you want to go, then just focus on working on yourself. Loving yourself, taking care of yourself, making yourself the best version, healthy, vitality, exercise, sleep, rest, feeding your brain, enjoying, laughing, having experiences, your relationships. And in that process of you doing that, which is the middle, your answer will show up. When I looked back on the different versions of myself, that's exactly what happened. Every time I kind of went within myself and kind of shut the noise out of all of the opinions and you should do this, you should do that, and the pressure that you put on yourself to have a timeline on when things should be done, and I need to have this by then, or I'm competing with someone else. When you can remove those things, I've noticed the answers just kind of show up. And it's weird, it's like a little of inner voice that pops up, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Or yes, I want to explore that option. You know, let's go down that route. You know, when you're at a crossroad in life, do I go right or left? The voice is so much louder if it's not noisy and clouded with everyone else's opinions and noise. So that's just something to think about. I think the growing pains that you see are loneliness. And I've experienced that very much. You can be very lonely in a big group of people. You can be lonely in a relationship. You can be lonely by yourself. So loneliness is not just reserved for just being solitary. It's you can be lonely with your thoughts, or feel alone, because like you can feel like nobody else is experiencing what you were experiencing, and that's a big piece to it. Grief came from me in kind of I call it like a toddler tantrum of saying goodbye to my old version and not wanting it anymore. There's a grief in that, because what used to satisfy you, what used to satiate your needs of like, yes, I love this, or that excitement you feel with your career, your relationship, or your life, whatever have you, kind of just dissipates, and you just have this like numb discontent of where you are. And that's what I think signals that it's time for change. And there's a grieving to that, because part of you is like, what the heck's wrong with me? Why am I not happy with all these things that I have? Why am I not happy? Especially if you've achieved success in a material sense, with like the houses and the cars and the vacations and the pretty wife or handsome husband and the kids and all of the things, you know, the positions. If you've achieved all that and you're still not happy, and something else is like, there's got to be more, that just lets you know that's probably a spiritual journey you need to go on for yourself, or you've been hiding amongst all of that stuff, the achievement, that's not your true self. And that's typically what I see in a lot of people. And I think I've probably been through seasons of that as well. But definitely a grief and resistance from others. And just like I said before, when you want to change and do things and you're like, hey, I'm going to try this now, or I'm going to become this other person, or I'm going to quit my career and try a different career. Resistance from others are people that are around you that benefit from you staying the same. And I hate to say that. People that benefit from you staying who you are the way they like you are the biggest people that are going to be like, that's stupid, don't do that, who do you think you are, etc., etc. And I don't think that they do it. I want to believe in my heart that people, for the most part, there are of course people with ill intentions, but for the most part, people I don't think intentionally try to derail other people or try to put a damper on other people's dreams. I think it's just in their own lens and filter of what they believe is real and possible. And so if you can understand that that's their fear and their smallness and their freak out, that if you change, what does that mean from them? And also if it's someone that really wants to change, they don't have the courage to do it, and then they see you making moves and doing things differently, it's a reminder to them that they are exactly where they are and they haven't moved. So it's like a mirror. And so sometimes they want to point out and give you resistance. So that just this, little things to keep in mind. People are projecting their fears onto you that you need to kind of put earplugs in, is what I say, and not listen to the noise around you. It becomes really easy to get freaked out and second guess your inner voice on what you should do and not do and make change. Whatever that may be, in a relationship, career, personal growth, whatever you have, I think you have to be okay with the choices you make for your life and move forward. But a lot of times we want everyone else to cheer for us. We have to cheer for ourselves. And it is difficult to go through that piece. But the biggest thing is the messy middle, this in-between place, is necessary and it is sacred. Just like when the butterfly or the caterpillar cocoons before they become the butterfly, they completely disintegrate in that cocoon. And if you poke at it or mess with it before it's ready, it will destroy the caterpillar altogether. So there is a sacredness to the undoing or coming undone. I think there's a book, Coming Undone, of who you were to become the most fantastic version of yourself, or the next version, then the next version, and embrace it, be excited for it, to know that it's going to happen when it's supposed to not rush it, to not judge yourself. I was in a call recently and I was rushing myself, I found out, and one of my colleagues said, Alicia, what is the hurry? Why are you rushing everything? There's no timeline. You're creating a timeline that doesn't exist. And it was such a good reminder for me to hear that, because I tell you that and I tell my clients that, but sometimes for myself, I get up in my own head and my own drama with that. So, we are all on the same path. We're all having the same human experience, just differently. So it's a good reminder to not rush things that don't need to be rushed. For me, I'm trying to use the energy healing, the pranic healing, and clearing of old patterns and reminders. That does not serve me anymore, and we need to leave that behind. And that's why I think cutting of cords and all the things that I'm doing, working towards that, I want to combine it to help me be that next version of myself and do it differently than anybody else, which then gives me kind of a differentiating factor, right, as a coach and as someone doing real estate. And it's not just the same thing everyone else is doing. And some of the things I think when you're trying to navigate this uncomfortableness of in between and exchange is, giving yourself an emotional processing time, giving yourself permission to grieve, be upset, understand that relationships are going to change and nothing needs to stay the same because it's not supposed to. There's no such thing. And reframing your fear as, claiming it and saying, I see that this is fear, I recognize it, and knowing that it's not fear because something bad's going to happen. It's fear because you just don't know, and it's okay. And to move forward through that fear and leaning on support systems. I cannot say this enough. And I've done a video on finding your tribe. I've done videos on masterminds, but it's so important that whatever that version you're trying to become, try to find people in that area and space to partner with, to say, hey, can you be my accountability partner? Hey, I just need a friend in this moment. Or if it's someone in your current world that is growing and they're just growing in a different direction, but they're growing, can maybe hold your hand and say, you got this, I know you can do it. We always have someone, we just sometimes don't see it. And also just, I like to do prayer, meditation, calling the higher power, calling God to support you through the process. And it's important to know that you're not broken, there's nothing wrong, and it's okay to move forward, and it's okay to leave people behind. And it's okay that not everything needs to stay in this same bubble. You can outgrow friendships, you can outgrow relationships. It doesn't mean you don't see them ever again or you don't talk to them. It just changes and evolves to that next place that you're gonna go to. And I would say embrace embrace that and not resist it, because I think we then are denying that better version of ourselves if we're hanging on to that past. You have to let it go to open up the other door. And I think there's so many little sayings that say that, when one door closes, another one opens. All those kinds of things are little sayings for a reason. So embrace that, and it will help you empower yourself. It'll help you in your personal growth journey. And as a mom, it's really cool to showcase that to my kids, because when they're going through the changes, I want to be that person that recognizes they're changing and not trying to put them in a box and put my fear on them. So that awareness is a huge piece to think about as a mother too. And until next time, stay empowered, don't worry about that change, and keep on growing.